A blue-black dusk smothered Aspen Hill, Colorado, as the wind howled and snow battered the battered logs of Harper Reeves' isolated cabin. It was the kind of blizzard that locals called killer white. The world outside erased in waves of ice, headlights nothing but blur, phone lines snapping like brittle sticks. Inside, the only light came from a dying fire, and the amber glint in Coda's eyes as he paced, fur bristling, gaze never leaving the door. Harper Reeves, detective, widow, a soul frayed by grief and failure, lay curled on the worn couch, half awake, body numb, mind adrift in another nightmare of flashing lights and gunshots. She barely registered Coda's first sharp bark, not until his second, desperate, trembling with something raw. Then the cold slapped her awake. Coda stood at the door, front paws scraping frantically, muzzle pressed to the seam, as if trying to wedge his whole body into the storm. His breath steamed in the freezing air that seeped through the cracks. Harper blinked hard, heart pounding, torn between irritation and dread. "Not now, Coda," she muttered, voice gravelly from disuse. "It's a blizzard. Not tonight." But Coda wouldn't quit. He whined, a strangled, pleading sound, his whole body shaking. Then, faint, carried by a rogue gust, a cry. Not an animal's, a child's. It was almost swallowed by the wind, but Harper's instincts, dulled for months, flared alive. She yanked on boots, grabbed her thickest coat, flashlight, and Coda's harness, hands clumsy with adrenaline. Outside, the world vanished into blinding white. The snow slapped her cheeks, ice clawing at her skin, but Coda lunged ahead, a streak of black and tan, nose low, tail a flag. They stumbled through knee-deep drifts, boots crunching, Harper's lungs burning with each freezing breath. Coda surged forward, never hesitating, barking into the emptiness. Harper almost gave up, until she saw the silhouette of a playground, its shapes ghostly, the swings creaking like distant screams, and there, beneath a warped plastic slide, was a small, still bundle. Harper dropped to her knees, heedless of the snow soaking her jeans. Coda whimpered, circling, snout pressed into the ice, pawing gently. Harper scraped snow away with trembling hands. Fingers found frozen cloth, then skin, cold as stone. A girl, maybe 6 or 7, face blue-tinged, curls matted with ice, clutching a broken locket, eyes barely open, lips cracked and pale. "No, no, no, please," Harper breathed, fighting back panic. She shrugged out of her coat, wrapped it around the child, lifted her with shaking arms. The weight, far too light, the child limp and silent, sent a jolt of terror through her chest. "Stay with me, kiddo. You're not leaving me tonight," she muttered, voice raw with desperation. Coda pressed close, his body a shield, nose nudging Harper's elbow as she staggered back toward the faint light of the cabin, each step a battle. Inside, the warmth hit them like a wave. Harper dumped logs on the fire, stripped off wet layers, and tucked the girl beneath a mountain of blankets. Her own hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the kettle as she boiled water for a makeshift hot water bottle. Coda never left the girl's side, his eyes tracking Harper's every move, low growls rumbling whenever Harper stepped away. Harper pressed her ear to the girl's chest. Yes, a heartbeat, faint but there. She worked, almost frantically, rubbing cold hands, coaxing the child to sip lukewarm cocoa, whispering nonsense and promises, anything to keep her conscious. At last the girl's eyes fluttered, and she rasped a broken plea. "Don't let them take me back." That single sentence hit Harper like a blow. She glanced down, noticing dark bruises beneath the girl's sleeve and a torn page stuffed in her coat, a child's drawing of a faceless woman, a locked closet, a house cold and sharp-edged, a puzzle of trauma scrawled in crayon. Harper's own pain flared, her hands trembling. She knelt beside the child, voice breaking as she whispered, "No one's going to hurt you. Not here, I promise." Coda, sensing the gravity, pressed his head into the girl's lap, a low whine vibrating through the room. Snow battered the windows, relentless, but inside, something shifted, Harper's numbness colliding with a sudden blazing resolve. For the first time in months, she had someone to fight for. As the storm raged on, Harper sat watch by the fire, Coda on one side, the little girl, Olivia Bennett, on the other, clutching her broken locket, holding on. Outside, the blizzard screamed, but in that flickering firelight, hope began to take root. The storm raged on, wind rattling every pane of glass, but inside the cabin, time thickened into a haze of worry and whispered questions. Harper kept Olivia near the fireplace, her own coat draped around the little girl whose skin still looked paper-thin, cheeks flushed with fever and cold. Coda refused to leave Olivia's side. Every time Harper tried to stand, Coda growled, low, protective, his tail stiff as a warning. Harper fumbled with the kettle, pouring water into a chipped mug, and added honey, the closest thing she had to comfort. Her hands still trembled. She'd faced guns, knives, even the memory of her husband's last breath. But there was something in this room, in the way Olivia flinched at every sound, that made Harper's heart thud against her ribs like she was running uphill. "Here," Harper said, kneeling, offering the mug. "It's warm. It'll help." Olivia stared at her, eyes wide, lips pressed into a tight line. She didn't reach for the mug. Harper waited, watching how the girl's gaze darted to Coda, then the window, then back to the fire. Harper saw the bruises now, fresh, dark ovals on Olivia's wrists, another along her collarbone half hidden by her shirt. She swallowed hard. "It's safe here," Harper said softly, not sure if she believed it herself. "No one can get you in this storm." Coda, as if agreeing, nudged the mug closer with his nose. Olivia's small hand shot out, quick as a bird, to grab it. She sipped, eyes fixed on the flames. Minutes ticked by. Outside, the wind screamed, branches thudding the roof. Harper wrapped a blanket tighter around Olivia's shoulders. Her thoughts circled. Who would send a child out in a blizzard? What kind of home was Olivia running from? A sudden draft whistled through the floorboards. Olivia flinched, her body curling tighter, the mug shaking. Coda pressed even closer. Harper reached to steady her, but Olivia jerked back, eyes darting, the terror unmistakable. Harper froze, then set her hands in her lap. She forced her voice calm. "Olivia, that's your name, right?" No response, just a slight nod. Harper tried again. "How old are you?" A pause, then barely above a whisper. 7. "That's a good age," Harper said. "You know, when I was 7, I used to hide in the pantry with my grandma's dog whenever there was thunder. I thought if I kept real quiet, nothing bad could find me." She tried to smile, but Olivia didn't look up. Instead, she began pulling at something tangled in her fist, a broken locket. The chain snapped. "Can I see?" Harper asked, gentle. Olivia hesitated, then handed it over. Inside, a tiny, faded photo, a woman with kind eyes, wild hair, smiling beside a much younger Harper. Harper's breath caught, her mind flickering through old memories, her own estranged sister, family stories she'd long buried. But the woman in the photo, she looked so much like Harper it was unsettling. "Where did you get this?" Harper's voice trembled despite herself. Olivia hugged her knees. "It's my mom's. She said it would keep me safe." Silence filled the cabin, heavy as the snow. Coda shifted, stretching out so his body pressed against both Olivia and Harper. For a moment, Harper felt the child's fear as a physical thing, something pulsing in the space between them. The flames snapped, shadows dancing across the walls. Olivia tugged a crumpled piece of paper from her coat, hands shaking. She smoothed it out on her knees. Harper caught glimpses. Scribbled drawings. Black crayon figures. A woman with no face. A square meant to be a closet. Jagged lines that might be a house. "Did you draw these?" Harper asked, her voice careful, not to scare. Olivia nodded, teeth worrying her bottom lip. "That's the house," she whispered. "The closet. Monica says I have to stay there when I'm bad." "Monica?" Harper kept her tone even, but inside her gut twisted. "My stepmom," Olivia said, voice cracking. She gets mad. She said I ruin everything." Olivia's words came in choppy bursts, then stopped, breath hitching. Harper watched, powerless, feeling her own memories swirl. Nights huddled in the dark, waiting for a grown-up's rage to pass. "You're not bad," Harper said, the words slipping out. "And you don't ruin anything." Olivia stared at the flames, silent. Coda rested his head on her knees, his big eyes saying what Harper couldn't. In the hush, Harper's mind darted back to the photograph, to the resemblance. Her sister had disappeared years ago, vanishing from Harper's life without warning. Could Olivia be? She pressed the locket shut, handed it back. "You keep this safe, okay?" Olivia nodded, clutching it so hard her knuckles went white. As midnight edged closer, Olivia drifted in and out of sleep. She startled awake once, crying out, "Don't let them take me back, please." Harper, heartbreaking, murmured, "You're safe. I promise." Coda stood guard, a silent sentinel. Near dawn, Harper heard her own voice crack as she tried to soothe Olivia, telling her, "No one's going to hurt you here." It sounded like a promise she couldn't afford to break. Later, as Olivia finally slept, Harper opened her phone and searched the faded photo again. Was it really her sister? What had happened? Why was Olivia here alone with a locket and bruises, running through a blizzard? As the fire burned low and the storm battered on, Harper stared at the locket, and the child curled up beside her dog, feeling the pieces of an old, unfinished story sliding into place. She wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time since her husband died, she felt something fierce and alive inside her. A need to protect. A chance, maybe, at redemption. Outside, the wind began to die down, but the shadows inside the cabin only grew deeper. Night still ruled outside. The storm's rage had faded to a sullen, icy hush, snow muting the world. But inside Harper's cabin, the fire burned low and long, painting restless shadows on the walls and ceiling. The clock ticked slow, each minute heavy with questions and quiet dread. Olivia sat bundled in Harper's old quilt, knees to her chest, the locket pressed to her palm like a talisman. Coda sprawled beside her, head heavy in the girl's lap, brown eyes blinking slow, always watching. Harper watched too, from across the coffee table, hands wrapped around a mug gone cold, trying to figure out how to start a conversation with a child whose whole world had been built on silence. Harper busied herself with little things, refilling the fire, heating milk, washing a plate that wasn't even dirty. But nothing covered up the weight in the room. She kept glancing at Olivia, her posture so small, so careful, like she was waiting for something to snap. It was Olivia who spoke first, voice a brittle whisper. "Is it always this quiet here?" Harper looked up. "When the snow falls." "Yeah, the world shuts off. But sometimes that's good. Gives you time to think. Or not think. Whichever you need." Olivia's fingers stroked Coda's ears, the movement automatic, soothing. The dog didn't move, just let out a soft whine, as if he understood the depth of Olivia's exhaustion. Harper noticed how the girl stiffened at every gust of wind, every crackle of the fire, how her eyes flicked to the door, the windows, the corners where shadows pooled. "Are you cold?" Harper asked, pulling another blanket from the back of the couch. She draped it over Olivia's shoulders, careful not to touch bare skin. Olivia tensed, then nodded a silent thanks. A few minutes passed before Harper offered a mug of hot chocolate, set gently within reach, not handed over. Olivia stared at it, then finally, tentatively took a sip. Harper wanted to fill the silence, but she'd learned, painfully, over years as a detective and as a woman who'd loved and lost, that some silences had to be honored. She sat quietly, listening to the crackle of the wood, the low hum of Coda's breath. After a long time, Olivia spoke again, her words spilling out in short, clipped bursts. "My mom disappeared last year. Nobody tells me why. Monica, she's my stepmom. She said it was my fault, that I make people leave." Her lips pressed tight, trembling. "I broke a lamp once and Monica made me sleep in the closet. I tried to be good after that, but sometimes she got angry anyway. I think she wanted me gone." Harper's hands curled tighter around her mug, the urge to lash out. At Monica, at the faceless system that let children like Olivia fall through cracks, so strong she had to steady herself before speaking. "I'm sorry," Harper said, voice gentle. "That's not your fault, Olivia. Sometimes grown-ups, they hurt people because of their own pain, but that doesn't make it right. Or true." Olivia said nothing, but Harper saw her shoulders sag just a little. Coda nuzzled Olivia's wrist, a heavy warmth. Minutes passed. Olivia fished in her pocket, pulling out another crumpled drawing, this one not black and jagged, but a little house with a woman and a dog drawn in wild, looping color. Harper recognized the shape of her cabin, Coda's tail wagging, and a small girl standing in the snow. She swallowed hard, throat tight. Olivia shrugged, shy. "I draw when I'm scared. Coda, he makes me feel better." "He's good at that," Harper said. He used to be my partner back when I was still on the force. I think he misses the work sometimes, but mostly I think he likes helping. Olivia looked up, really meeting Harper's gaze for the first time. There was something fierce and hopeful behind the fear, a spark that reminded Harper of herself at that age, fighting to believe in kindness. The wind rattled the windows. Olivia jumped, breath catching, and dropped her mug. Hot chocolate spilled, splattering across the rug. Instantly, Olivia flinched, arms coming up to shield her head. Old reflex. Harper froze, every instinct screaming to help, but she moved slow, kneeling on the rug beside the spilled mug. "It's okay. It's just a rug. No big deal." Olivia's arms stayed up a heartbeat longer. Then slowly, she lowered them, her eyes wide with uncertainty. Harper didn't touch her, just mopped up the spill, humming an old lullaby under her breath. Coda pressed himself into Olivia's side, a warm, living shield. They sat in silence for a while, the storm outside a distant memory. Olivia began to talk, halting at first, then in fragments that grew longer as the hour slipped by. Monica. She said if anyone found out, they'd send me away. She didn't want me. I heard her say it on the phone. She said I ruined everything after my mom left. Harper's chest ached. She reached for the broken locket Olivia still clutched. "Your mom gave you this?" Olivia nodded, twisting the chain around her finger. "She said it keeps people close, even if they're not here." Harper's own hand shook as she closed Olivia's fingers around the locket. "It's not your fault," Harper said quietly. "No matter what they told you." Olivia stared at her, searching for something. Doubt, maybe, or hope. Coda pressed closer, and Harper watched as for the first time, Olivia reached out to rest her hand, small, hesitant, on Harper's wrist. Neither spoke. The fire guttered, the night drawing long. But in that fragile, wordless moment, Harper felt something shift. A thread of trust, fragile as glass, but real. Somewhere in the depths of winter, in the flickering firelight, the first tiny roots of healing took hold. Dawn came slow and pale over Aspen Hill, the blizzard's wrath finally spent. Snow draped everything in silence, masking the scars left by the wind, the night's terror fading into a deceptive calm. Inside the cabin, the world felt suspended. Just Harper, Olivia, and Coda floating in an island of quiet, haunted by memories that wouldn't thaw with the morning sun. Harper had barely slept. She sat at the kitchen table, elbows pressed into the wood, hands turning over her husband's old police badge again and again. The cold metal felt heavy, a relic from a life that seemed impossibly distant now. She kept her gaze fixed on the badge, letting her mind run backward through broken nights, flashing blue lights, the suffocating pressure of responsibility. In her memory, gunshots still rang out. She still heard her husband's voice, warm and steady. "You can't save everyone, Harp, but you have to try." That last hostage rescue, she'd hesitated. Just one breath too long. The guilt festered, waking her at odd hours, robbing the world of color. Since then, she'd left the force, moved to the hills, convinced herself she was done with saving anyone. Now, a bruised little girl slept just beyond the door, and the old ache returned with a vengeance. Harper pressed her palms to her eyes, letting tears slip out, hot, angry, desperate. "I couldn't save them last time," she whispered to the empty room. "I have to get this right." Coda sat at her feet, tail thumping softly. Harper reached down, running her fingers through his fur, drawing strength from his steady presence. He pressed closer, head nudging her knee, as if telling her to get up, move forward. She did. By the fire, Olivia twisted in her sleep, tangled in blankets, a whimper breaking from her lips. Harper moved quietly to her side, heart hammering. She knelt down, smoothing the hair from Olivia's forehead, and waited. Olivia's eyes snapped open, wild with fear. "It's okay," Harper murmured, keeping her voice low and soft. "You're here. You're safe." Olivia shook, hands fisting the quilt. They were coming. The closet. She broke off, breath shuddering. Harper steadied her own hands, remembering her own childhood nightmares, the feeling of helplessness. "No one's going to put you anywhere. Not while I'm here." She reached for the mug of water on the end table, offered it up, and waited for Olivia to sip. A long silence stretched between them, broken only by the fire's soft crackle. Outside, the sun sent pale stripes across the snow, painting the room with patterns of light and shadow. Coda circled and lay down, pressed right up against Olivia. She finally relaxed, just a little, eyes closing again. Harper sat close, letting herself breathe. "Did you draw these last night?" Harper asked gently, nodding toward the pile of crumpled drawings on the table. Olivia nodded, silent. Harper sifted through the sketches. Faceless women, dark closets, jagged houses. So much pain in the frantic lines. "What about this one?" Harper lifted a drawing showing a woman blurred with heavy strokes, arms outstretched. Olivia bit her lip, then shook her head. "Don't know. Sometimes I think it's my mom. Sometimes I think it's no one." Harper wanted to ask more, but Olivia's face shuddered. Instead, Harper just sat beside her, letting the girl lean against her shoulder. For a while, neither said anything. Later, Harper moved to the window, looking out over the drifts. Sunlight bounced off the snow, nearly blinding. Harper's phone buzzed, a calendar reminder from another life. She ignored it, scrolling instead through old voicemails, texts she couldn't delete. Her thumb hovered over one message labeled "From Ben." Her husband's voice came through, soft and careful. "Harper, it's about Olivia Bennett, Monica's stepchild. I think something's wrong in that house. I've heard things. I'm looking into it, but if anything happens to me, promise me you'll follow up. She needs someone." Harper stared at the phone, chest tightening. Ben had known. He'd tried to warn her, even as she was unraveling, lost in her own grief. A floorboard creaked. Harper looked up to see Olivia standing in the doorway, hair tousled, eyes red-rimmed. "Couldn't sleep," she said, voice small. Harper opened her arms in silent invitation. Olivia hesitated, then shuffled over, settling beside Harper on the window seat. Coda joined, nose wedging under Olivia's arm. After a long silence, Olivia whispered, "Sometimes I wish I could disappear, like my mom did. Then nobody would be mad at me anymore." Harper's heart fractured. She reached for Olivia's hand, squeezing gently. "I know how that feels. I used to wish I could disappear, too. But then I met Coda, and then I met you." For a moment, Olivia didn't move. Then, tentative, she squeezed Harper's hand back, just for a heartbeat. Harper's tears threatened again, but she forced a smile. "You're not alone. I promise." The three of them sat in that patch of sunlight, fragile but together. Coda curled even closer, as if he could shield them both from the past. In the quiet that followed, Harper felt the weight of her old badge in her pocket, and Ben's words echoed in her mind. She needs someone. The lines between Harper's pain and Olivia's began to blur. Saving this child wasn't about redemption anymore. It was about breaking the cycle, refusing to look away. For the first time in months, Harper allowed herself to hope, just a little, that she could be enough. By noon, the storm had receded into gray slush and uncertain sunlight, but the tension inside Harper's chest felt sharper than ever. She moved briskly through the cabin, packing a go-bag for Olivia, spare clothes, a snack, Harper's own thickest scarf, a battered notebook for sketches. Coda circled, restless, sensing the new urgency in Harper's movements. "Time to go, kiddo," Harper said quietly, kneeling to help Olivia with her boots. "We're heading into town." Olivia stiffened at the words, eyes flicking from Harper to the door, to Coda, and back again. "Will Monica be there?" she asked, voice barely a breath. Harper shook her head. "No, just the police station first. People I trust." She hoped it was true. They bundled into Harper's pickup, the heater whining, the radio crackling static. Harper kept glancing at Olivia in the rearview mirror, so small in the thick coat, Coda pressed close, protective as ever. They slid through icy streets toward Aspen Hills Police Department, a squat brick building just off Main, ringed by mounds of plowed snow and patrol cars already half buried again. Inside, the department was too bright, too clean, a world away from the battered safety of Harper's cabin. The reception desk buzzed, radios squawking in the background. Officers nodded, some with sympathy, others with barely concealed skepticism. Harper Reeves was still the one who lost the hostage, the detective with too much grief and too little faith in herself. Sergeant Mason met them in a side office, his smile tired, his handshake firm. He looked at Olivia, at Coda, then at Harper, his gaze lingering. "Rough night?" he asked. Harper nodded, settling Olivia into a chair beside Coda. I found her in the blizzard. She was running from something or someone. She kept her voice steady, refusing to let the doubt slip in. Mason crouched beside Olivia, his tone gentle but practiced. Can you tell me your name, sweetheart? Olivia flinched, shrinking into the chair. Coda shifted closer, a low rumble in his chest. Harper touched Olivia's shoulder, steadying her. Her name is Olivia Bennett, she said, and she's not safe with Monica. At that, Mason's jaw tightened. You're sure? Harper nodded. Bruises, nightmares. The locket, her mother disappeared. Olivia's drawings. She slid a few across the table. Faceless women, a locked closet, a child alone in the snow. Another officer entered, Detective Sutton, face closed, arms crossed. We'll need to ask the girl some questions, she said. And we need to call Child Protective Services. Harper's hands curled into fists. She kept her voice calm, but it cost her. She's been through hell. Go slow. Olivia's eyes darted around the room, computer screens, harsh lights, uniforms. She hugged Coda, fingers white-knuckled. Please don't let them take me back. Please. Mason leaned forward. No one's taking you anywhere right now, Olivia. You're safe. Just tell us what happened. But Olivia went silent, retreating into herself, shrinking smaller with every question. Sutton's voice, flat and formal, made it worse. How long were you outside? Did Monica hurt you? Do you know why you ran? Coda began to growl, deep and warning, every time Monica's name was mentioned. Harper reached under the table, giving his head a steadying rub, then glared at Sutton. That's enough. She'll talk when she's ready. The air crackled with tension. Harper needed proof. She excused herself, stepping into the hallway, using her old badge to access the police records terminal. A few keystrokes, and Olivia's medical history appeared on the screen. Dozens of ER visits, all marked as accident, fall, or illness. Too many, too often. Different hospitals. No follow-up. Harper printed the list, each line a spike in her anger. Returning to the office, she slid the files across to Mason. Look, she's not making this up. No kid gets this hurt by accident. Before Mason could answer, a soft voice from the doorway. Detective Reeves? Harper turned. Mrs. Gordon, her nearest neighbor, stood there, cheeks pink from the cold, clutching her purse. She stepped inside, glancing at Olivia with concern. I saw your truck, Harper. I have something. From her bag, she drew a small flash drive. You said if I ever saw anything. Well, my cameras pick up the road. Last night, Monica screaming, forcing Olivia outside, locking the door. I thought she'd go back, but she never did. Harper's chest tightened. May I? Mrs. Gordon nodded. I backed up the video, in case you needed it. Harper squeezed her hand, gratitude thick in her throat. You did the right thing. Mason watched, silent, as Harper plugged the drive into his computer. The footage flickered onto the screen. Monica's sharp face, her voice shrill and angry, Olivia's small form darting out into the snow, pajamas fluttering, the door slamming shut behind her. A minute later, nothing but darkness and wind. That's enough, Mason muttered, his face pale. That's all we need. Sutton's expression changed. For the first time, Harper saw real concern in her colleague's eyes. We'll open a case. Get Olivia somewhere safe. Thank you, Reeves. Olivia, silent through it all, watched the adults with anxious hope. She clung to Coda, his fur damp from her tears. Will I have to go back? She whispered. Harper knelt, looking Olivia in the eye. No, not now. We'll make sure of it. Her voice broke, but she forced a smile. You're not alone anymore. The office, bright and sterile, now felt like the first safe place Olivia had known in a long time. As Mason left to start the paperwork, Harper wrapped an arm around the girl's shoulders, letting her lean in, both of them drawing strength from Coda, steadfast and unwavering. For the first time since the storm, Harper believed, truly, that there was a way forward. Snowmelt streamed in gray rivulets along the gutters as Harper pulled into the cul-de-sac that led to Monica's house. The sky above Aspen Hill was the color of dirty glass, clouds brooding low, as if the storm had only retreated to watch what would happen next. Olivia sat beside Harper in the car's back seat, legs swinging nervously, Coda's head in her lap for comfort. She clung to her broken locket as if it might anchor her to safety. Harper glanced back. You ready, kiddo? Olivia nodded, but her eyes betrayed her. Do I have to see Monica? Harper squeezed her shoulder. Just for a little while. You're not alone. I promise. Monica's house was immaculate. Manicured lawn, wreath on the door, a place that screamed perfection. But Harper felt nothing but dread as she rang the bell. Monica opened the door with a polished smile, but her eyes were cold, searching. "Well, this is a surprise," Monica said sweetly. "I see you found Olivia. Thank you for returning her. She does have a habit of wandering off." Harper kept her face neutral. "We need to talk. Inside." Monica's composure wavered, just a flicker. Still, she stood aside, letting Harper, Olivia, and Coda into the gleaming foyer. Darren, Olivia's stepfather, emerged from the den, coffee in hand, expression unreadable. Harper noticed how Olivia shrank into herself, one hand fisting Coda's fur. Monica's voice dripped with condescension. "I called CPS this morning. I told them you'd show up eventually, Harper. I worry about your state of mind. After everything you've been through, losing Ben, your suspension, maybe this isn't the right place for Olivia, or for you." Harper felt heat rise in her chest, but forced calm. "What Olivia's been through isn't up for debate. The police have evidence, Monica. Footage from your neighbor, medical records. This is about Olivia's safety." Darren set his cup down, clearing his throat. "Monica, let's not make a scene. I'm sure Detective Reeves is only doing her job." Monica's jaw tightened, but her smile grew sharper. "Detective Reeves hasn't been herself lately. I'd hate for her to drag this poor child through any more drama. Isn't it best if Olivia comes home where she belongs?" At that, Olivia whimpered. Monica stepped forward, reaching for her, but Coda erupted, barking, teeth bared, standing between Olivia and Monica, a wall of fur and fury. The sound echoed off the marble floors. Monica stumbled back, mask slipping. Harper stepped between them, her tone steel. "You're not touching her." The doorbell rang. A social worker from CPS and Detective Sutton entered, tense and brisk. "We need to discuss custody," the social worker said. All parties present. The meeting moved to the formal dining room, sunlight filtering through spotless windows. Monica launched into her version of events, her words smooth, rehearsed. "Olivia is troubled. She's had issues since her mother disappeared. Harper's not well. She's projecting, looking for someone to save after what happened with Ben." Darren chimed in, voice soft but dismissive. "It's been a difficult year for all of us. Monica tries her best, but Olivia is hard." Harper forced herself to keep breathing. She looked directly at the social worker. "Check the records. Talk to the hospital staff. Look at the footage. Ask Olivia where she wants to be." Monica's composure finally cracked. "You have no right. You're not even family. You're just a—" But Sutton raised a hand. "Actually, a DNA test was run this morning as a precaution. Harper is Olivia's aunt. Ben was Olivia's biological uncle." The silence was explosive. Monica's face paled. Darren blinked as if slapped. Harper felt the world tip. A new, deeper connection surged in her chest. This wasn't just about protection anymore. Olivia was family. The social worker, unfazed, flipped through her notes. "Given the evidence of abuse, the police investigation, and the DNA confirmation, Olivia will remain in protective custody with Detective Reeves for now. The court will review the case next week." Monica exploded. "You can't do this. She's my daughter now. She's all I have left." Sutton's voice was calm but final. "She's not a possession, Monica. Olivia has a voice and a family who wants her safe. That's what matters." Olivia stared at Harper, tears in her eyes, but the smallest flicker of hope in her face. Coda pressed his muzzle to her hand, his body blocking Monica's path, a living shield. As the CPS team led Olivia outside, Monica hissed, "This isn't over. I'll fight you. I always win." Harper didn't reply. She knelt beside Olivia, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "We're going home, okay? You're safe with me." Olivia nodded, silent tears rolling down her face, but for the first time she didn't flinch from Harper's touch. They walked out of the immaculate house together, Harper, Olivia, and Coda, leaving Monica in the cold light of her perfect home, the truth echoing in the space she'd tried so hard to control. In the car, as Harper buckled Olivia in, Coda hopped up, settling in beside her. Harper caught Olivia's eye in the rear view, saw strength there that hadn't been before. Olivia whispered, almost too softly to hear, "Thank you." Harper started the engine, letting herself breathe for the first time that day. Outside, sunlight melted the last icicles from the trees. And inside the car, hope took hold, raw and trembling, but real. Snow lingered in dirty heaps along the courthouse steps as Harper guided Olivia through the crowd of reporters, lawyers, and townspeople gathered beneath the heavy stone columns of Aspen Hill Courthouse. It seemed like all of Aspen Hill had shown up, some out of duty, others for gossip, and a few because deep down they wanted to know whether someone would finally protect the small and the voiceless. Inside, the air buzzed with tension. Olivia shrank beside Harper, clutching Coda's collar for courage. Coda patted calmly, ignoring the whispers and stares, every bit the loyal protector. Harper squeezed Olivia's shoulder, reminding herself to stay upright, to breathe, to show Olivia what it looked like to stand up when the whole world seemed stacked against you. The hearing began with formality, the judge's voice calm, the clack of the gavel echoing off wood panels. Monica sat at one table, all pearls and practiced smiles, with Darren by her side and an expensive attorney whispering in her ear. Harper sat at the other, her only allies a public defender and the quiet, steadfast weight of Coda pressed to her foot. The prosecutor called Monica's daughter, Jenna, to the stand. Jenna's hands shook as she swore to tell the truth, her eyes darting between Monica and the judge. "Jenna," the attorney began gently, "can you tell us what happened the night of the blizzard?" Jenna glanced at Monica, who glared. Just for a moment, just enough. Jenna's voice broke as she spoke. "Monica, my mom. She told me to say Olivia ran away. But she didn't. Monica made her go outside. She said Olivia ruined everything, that she needed to learn a lesson. She locked her in the closet for hours sometimes. She told me if I ever told anyone, I'd be in trouble too." A collective hush rippled through the room. Monica's face went white, then red, anger shimmering beneath her veneer. Darren wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. The prosecutor nodded. "Thank you, Jenna. That was brave." Harper watched Olivia, her whole body trembling, eyes wide with fear and relief. Coda pressed his nose into Olivia's palm, grounding her in the moment. It was Harper's turn to testify. She took the stand, voice tight at first. "I failed before," she admitted, eyes meeting the judge's. "I lost someone because I hesitated. I've spent months running from that failure. But Olivia, she deserves better. She deserves a family that loves her. I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I can promise I'll fight for her every day the way someone should have fought for me." A pause. The judge watched her, eyebrows knit with curiosity and empathy. "She's not just a case," Harper said, voice growing stronger. "She's a child. She's my family. She's suffered enough." Monica's lawyer countered, his voice slick. "Detective Reeves, you've recently suffered a personal loss and were suspended from the force, correct? Are you mentally fit to care for a traumatized child?" Harper straightened her spine. "I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but I know what neglect looks like. I know what it's like to need someone and not have them come. That won't happen to Olivia, not if I have any say." As Harper returned to her seat, the judge called Olivia forward. Harper's heart hammered as Olivia walked to the stand, Coda trailing beside her, tail low but steady. The bailiff started to protest, but the judge nodded. "Let the dog accompany her," he said softly. "It seems he's done more for her than most adults." Olivia clambered onto the chair, feet dangling, eyes bright with tears. She gripped the edge of the stand, her voice trembling but clear. "I just want to be somewhere safe," Olivia whispered. "I don't want to go back." The judge leaned forward. "Is there anything else you'd like to say, Olivia?" She looked at Harper, then at Coda, then back to the judge. "Coda stayed with me in the snow. Harper helped me when no one else did. I'm not bad. I just want to feel safe, that's all." The judge sat back, silent for a long moment, the whole courtroom holding its breath. The evidence had piled up: Jenna's confession, Mrs. Gordon's footage, medical records, and the DNA result linking Olivia to Harper. But it was Olivia's quiet courage that shifted something in the judge's face. He set his pen down. "This court finds that Olivia Bennett is to remain in the temporary custody of Detective Harper Reeves, pending permanent arrangements. I'm granting an emergency order effective immediately. There will be further hearings, but for now, Olivia, you are not to be returned to Monica and Darren's home." A low wave of relief and murmured approval swept through the courtroom. Monica rose, red-faced, her lawyer tugging her sleeve. Jenna began to cry, Darren frozen in shame. Harper released a breath she'd been holding for weeks. Olivia stumbled off the stand, Coda right beside her. Harper knelt and opened her arms. Olivia flew into them, hugging Harper tight. sobs breaking loose at last. Coda nuzzled both of them, his tail wagging gently. For a moment, nothing else existed, just the fragile promise of safety, earned through truth, tears, and the kind of loyalty that could only grow from pain and love intertwined. The courthouse emptied slowly, but Harper, Olivia, and Coda lingered, letting the sunlight pour through high windows, warming the frost that had settled deep inside them both. Outside, the first buds of spring shivered beneath the melting snow. Inside, hope had found its voice. Spring came to Aspen Hill not with a sudden burst of color, but with slow, uncertain steps, a trickle of meltwater at the edge of the road, sunlight coaxing green from beneath sodden drifts, the faintest scent of thaw in the air. The world outside Harper's cabin softened, the woods no longer menacing but quietly waking. Inside, the rhythm of life shifted too, tentative, halting, but unmistakably forward. Each morning, Harper, Olivia, and Coda ventured outside, boots crunching on the last patches of old snow, breath hanging in the chill. Coda, once so powerful, was slower now, his gait uneven from the winter's toll, but he still insisted on leading the way, tail waving like a flag. Olivia always stayed close, one hand on Coda's fur, the other tucked into Harper's coat pocket, laughter occasionally breaking loose when a squirrel dashed across their path, or when the sun caught a patch of ice just right, turning the world to glitter. Breakfasts were simple, scrambled eggs, toast, sometimes pancakes on the weekends when Harper let Olivia pour the batter herself. The kitchen, once silent and echoing with old pain, now hummed with low conversation, clattering forks, and the gentle rhythm of something being rebuilt. Art supplies covered the coffee table, pencils, crayons, paper. Olivia's drawings began to change. The dark closets and faceless women faded. In their place came bright scenes, a snow-covered cabin, a woman and a dog, a girl grinning, cheeks rosy with life. One morning, Olivia proudly taped her latest masterpiece to the fridge, 3 figures in a field of snow, Coda's lopsided tail held high, all of them smiling. Still, the past wasn't gone. Harper woke sometimes in the night, heart pounding with echoes of gunshots, or the memory of that frozen, desperate search. Olivia still flinched at the creak of floorboards or thunder rolling far away. But the cabin had changed, a place of exile becoming, day by day, a home. One afternoon, Olivia found the courage to ask, "Are we a family now?" Harper set aside her book, looking into Olivia's eyes, seeing her own longing reflected there. "Yeah," she said softly, voice catching. "We are, if you want to be." Olivia smiled, wide and real, without shadows. "I do." That night, Harper built a fire and let Olivia tell stories. Wild, rambling tales about queens and dragons, lost puppies and brave girls who always found their way home. Coda dozed, one paw twitching in a dream, his old body pressed close to the hearth. But even the strongest hearts can falter. It happened suddenly. On an evening walk, Coda chased a squirrel across a patch of melting ice. His body moved with remembered strength, but his back legs buckled. He yelped and toppled, rolling onto his side. Olivia screamed, running to him, hands frantic, tears streaming down her face. Harper scooped Coda into her arms, feeling the weight of his age, the frailty beneath his thick fur. "Come on, buddy, stay with us," she murmured, carrying him inside, Olivia trailing behind, white with fear. They made a bed for Coda by the fire, pillows and blankets piled high, Olivia kneeling at his side, whispering stories and promises. Harper dialed the vet, her voice breaking. "He's old. Something's wrong. Please, can you come?" The vet arrived under a bruised evening sky, his truck crunching up the gravel drive. He knelt beside Coda, checking his legs, listening to his heart. Olivia wouldn't let go of Coda's paw, whispering, "You're gonna be okay. You have to be okay. We need you." Harper stood by the window, jaw tight, every muscle wound with dread. The vet finally looked up, voice gentle. "He's had a stroke. He's lucky to be alive, with care, rest. He might pull through, but he'll limp from now on. He's earned it." Relief and sorrow mixed in Harper's chest. Olivia threw her arms around Coda's neck, sobbing with joy and grief, all tangled together. Harper knelt beside her, holding both the girl and the dog close, promising silently that she would not let this new family fall apart. In the following days, Olivia barely left Coda's side. She fed him by hand, coaxed him to drink, told him every secret she'd ever kept. One morning, she pressed her broken locket into Coda's fur, tying it to his collar. "Now you're family, for real," she whispered. Harper watched, tears slipping down her face, unseen. Spring sunlight streamed through the windows. For the first time, laughter rose in the cabin, raw, beautiful, defiant. Olivia's drawings showed wildflowers now, and Coda with a crooked, heroic smile. The pain hadn't vanished, but it had been changed, woven into something new, something strong. The cabin, once a fortress against the world, became a beginning. Early summer brought Aspen Hill alive. The last stubborn piles of snow retreated, revealing green lawns and wildflowers eager to claim every sun-warmed patch of earth. Harper's cabin stood at the edge of the woods, windows thrown wide, the air inside alive with birdsong, the hum of bees, and the clatter of voices, no longer afraid of being heard. For Olivia, the days unfolded like new pages in a story she had once believed would never be hers. She woke to the smell of pancakes, to Coda's snuffling nose and Harper's voice calling, "You ready for today, superstar?" Sometimes her dreams still twisted into nightmares, but now she had arms to run to in the dark. She had a home, not just a place to hide. That June morning, sunlight poured through the wide windows of Aspen Hills Community Center, where a circle of chairs had been arranged around a big rug, Coda's corner painted in bright colors on the wall. The place hummed with anticipation. Children and parents, teachers, neighbors, a few local reporters, all curious, some nervous, many simply grateful for something good after a long, bruising winter. Olivia stood at the front, hands shaking as she gripped her note cards. Her voice was small at first, but steady. "Hi, my name is Olivia. She nodded at Coda, who sat beside her, wise and slow, his head silvering at the muzzle. "This is Coda, and that's Harper, my aunt." A few of the kids giggled. One little boy, face scarred with old hurts, reached out to touch Coda's tail. Olivia smiled, shy but genuine. "I used to be scared all the time. I thought it was my fault. But then, Coda found me in the snow. He stayed with me. When I was cold, he was warm. When I was afraid, he was brave. When I felt invisible, he looked at me like I was important." She took a shaky breath. "I know what it's like to think no one sees you, or that no one cares. But here," she gestured at the circle, at the grown-ups and children. "Here, we can talk. Or we can just be together. If you need to sit with Coda, you can. He won't judge. He doesn't care if you're sad or scared. He just stays." Harper watched from the back, heart pounding, not with pride for herself, but with awe for Olivia's transformation. This wasn't about being a savior. It was about witnessing the slow, careful building of a child's belief in herself and the world. It was about letting Olivia take up space. Coda never hurried, let each child pet him, nuzzle him, bury faces in his fur. One girl whispered secrets in his ear. A boy who never spoke in class drew a picture of Coda with a cape, "Super Dog," written in jagged letters. Parents who'd once looked away now gathered to help, baking snacks, hanging art, sharing stories of their own wounds for the first time. As the weeks passed, Coda's corner grew into something bigger than any one story. The ripple effect was visible. Teachers caught small changes, children standing a little taller, adults checking on neighbors they'd barely known. Mrs. Gordon, whose flash drive had changed everything, led an art group for the kids. Harper and a local counselor hosted sessions for parents about listening, about seeing what's usually hidden. Harper's old wounds didn't disappear, but they shifted, pain becoming empathy, fear transforming into action. She learned through Olivia that healing was never solitary. It took a village, a neighbor who noticed, a vet who came at midnight, a judge who chose to believe a child, a community that dared to talk about hard things. Each act, small as it seemed, was a thread in a safety net that held those who might otherwise fall. On the first true day of summer, the community gathered outside the center, planting wildflowers in the yard. Olivia knelt in the dirt, Coda at her side, their hands and paws smudged with earth. Harper stood among parents, her heart swelling with something quieter, stronger than pride, a sense of belonging, hard-earned and shared. That evening, as dusk stretched the shadows long, Harper sat beside Olivia on the porch. Fireflies sparked in the grass. For a while, neither spoke. Then Olivia turned, her voice so soft Harper almost missed it. Do you think people ever really get better? Or just learn how to hide it? Harper thought about her own journey, about the bruised, sharp places inside that would never completely heal. She took Olivia's hand. I think we get better at being honest, at letting other people see us. I think we learn it's okay to be broken sometimes, as long as we don't hide forever. Olivia nodded, eyes shining in the twilight. I like that. Coda nuzzled closer as if in agreement. Around them, laughter drifted from Coda's corner, the promise of a new kind of future, one built not just on survival, but on connection, courage, and the refusal to let anyone slip through the cracks. Harper looked at the wildflowers, the lanterns glowing soft in gold, and felt, finally, a peace she had never believed she'd find. Spring settled over Aspen Hill with the soft certainty of forgiveness. The days lengthened, sunlight warming the park until it overflowed with children's laughter, bursts of wildflowers, and music drifting from the festival bandstand. On a crisp Saturday morning, the town gathered beneath a wide blue sky for the annual Spring Festival, a tradition older than memory, but this year it felt like something altogether new. Banners arched over the entrance, celebrating courage and second chances. Harper moved through the crowd with Olivia at her side and Coda leading the way, his limp slowing him but never stopping him. People greeted them, parents with hugs, children with shy waves, teachers and neighbors who remembered the cold winter and the way hope had crept in quietly, one act at a time. Harper caught her reflection in a vendor's window, lines at her eyes deeper, but the weight behind them lighter. She smiled, not out of habit, but from a place that felt earned. Olivia ran ahead, her laughter bright, stopping to help a little boy pin a paper flower to his shirt, then doubling back to tug Harper's sleeve. Come on, it's almost time. Olivia grinned, her hand warm and steady in Harper's. A makeshift stage had been set up by the park's old maple tree. The audience rows filled with families and friends, teachers and local officials. The mayor tapped the microphone. Today, we honor not just spring, but the promise it brings. The courage it takes to start again. The bravery to love, to speak, to heal. The crowd hushed as Olivia walked to the microphone, Coda by her side. She wore a simple dress, her hair pulled back, the repaired locket shining at her throat. Harper watched her, no longer the small, shaking child from the storm, but someone new, someone growing. Olivia took a breath, glanced at Coda, then read from a poem she had written for the festival. When winter howled, I thought I'd disappear. But hands reached through the storm, and now I am here. Thank you for finding me. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then applause rose, gentle at first, then loud and wild. Tears glistened on more than one face. Harper blinked hard, a swell of pride and gratitude and relief rising in her chest. She caught the eyes of other parents, social workers, and survivors scattered through the crowd. She saw understanding there, a silent agreement. We made it. The mayor called Harper and Coda forward, reading from a proclamation. For their bravery and compassion, for reminding us what it means to care for one another, we honor Coda as the heart of Aspen Hill. Someone fastened a medal around Coda's neck, and children swarmed, pressing close, hands gentle in his fur. The old dog sat regal and patient, his eyes shining, as if he knew this moment was for every time he had stood guard against the dark. Reporters snapped photos. Harper stood at the edge, no longer hiding from the world. She'd spent so long believing she'd failed, the rescue gone wrong, her marriage lost, her own hope shriveled in the cold. But now she saw the real legacy wasn't perfection. It was presence. It was staying. It was reaching for someone, again and again, no matter how many storms tried to keep you apart. After the ceremony, a woman approached, her badge marked Child Welfare Advocate. She shook Harper's hand, eyes serious but kind. Your story, Olivia's story, has changed things here. Would you help us design training for the whole county? You know what's missed. We need you. Harper hesitated, then nodded, feeling purpose fill the spaces grief had carved out. Yes, whatever you need. Word spread quickly. Donations arrived for Coda's Corner, offers to volunteer, letters from towns as far away as Denver. Olivia became a quiet leader at school, starting a support group for kids with hard stories. She taught them Coda's favorite tricks, shared Harper's small, practical ways of feeling safe. Other children found their voices. Some even found laughter. As the festival rolled on, Harper and Olivia slipped away to the hill overlooking the park. They watched families picnic, music playing, children running. Olivia pressed her shoulder to Harper's. "Do you think Ben would have liked this?" Harper smiled, blinking back tears. "He would have loved it. He always said you can't save everyone, but you save who you can." Olivia nodded, silent for a while. "I'm glad you saved me." Harper took her hand. "You saved me too." Below, Coda limped through a knot of children, his tail swaying, his eyes wise. He wasn't just a pet, he was living proof that love, loyalty, and patience could outlast even the coldest winters. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, Harper and Olivia joined the last dance, laughter mingling with the music, hope thick as the scent of spring. When it was time to go, Harper turned to Olivia, brushing hair from her face. "You know what's special about second chances? They're proof we don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love. We just have to show up. For each other. For ourselves." Olivia leaned in, her voice soft. "Can we come back next year?" Harper nodded. "Every year." If this story touched you, please like and follow our channel. Remember, look for the lonely, speak up for the voiceless, and never underestimate what your care can mean to someone lost in the storm. Sometimes, the smallest light is all it takes to lead someone home.